It's one thing not to be afraid of spiders. It's another to want to wear them. A man was arrested for trying to smuggle hundreds of tarantulas through a Peruvian airport. Officials at Jorge Chávez International Airport in Lima said they noticed a traveler whose abdominal area looked strangely swollen.
En el momento de la revisión,
a biologist from the National Forestry and Wildlife Service said, at the time of the arrest, it was observed that the citizen had placed these specimens in small Ziploc bags with filter paper. They were placed around his body, contained by 2 girdles. Strapped to the 28-year-old man's body were 320 tarantulas, 110 centipedes, and 9 bullet ants. According to the National Forestry and Wildlife Service, the illegal trafficking of these endangered species generates millions of dollars globally as they are sold as pets or to collectors. The suspect now faces wildlife trafficking charges, while the tarantulas are being cared for by authorities. For Inside Edition Digital.
Just seconds ago, we just spoke with the 13th Ward Alderman, Maddie Quinn, who confirms to us tonight that 2 people were shot, 3 in fact, it involving a security guard and 2 suspects. He confirms that one of the suspects has died. We want to take you to a video from the scene from earlier tonight. Now, this happened on Archer near Nordica Avenues here in the Garfield Ridge neighborhood. Again, we've seen officers in and out of Helena's Pub, as well as checking out cars parked outside of the business, possibly indicating this violence may have spilled into the streets. Now, the 13th Ward Alderman confirming that 1 man was shot and killed, while the other 2 men shot were taken to the hospital. He confirmed that a security guard was shot and 2 suspects were also shot. A suspect died at this time. Those 2 people who were taken to the hospital, their conditions are unknown at this time. Back out here live, police still investigating a motive in this.
A devastating and deadly scene in southern China where police say a hit-and-run driver deliberately plowed his car into a crowd inside of a sports center last night. At least 35 people were killed. More than 3 dozen others were injured in this crash. The violence unfolded on the eve of China's biggest air show. NBC News international correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins me now. Megan, local police are calling this incident serious and vicious. What do we know about this man and the possible motive here?
Well, Vicki, at this point, the motive is still unclear, but what police are telling us from their preliminary investigation is that this 62-year-old man, who they've identified by his last name only, which is Fan, was angry over the split of financial assets through his divorce. Now, what exactly caused him to intentionally ram into this facility where people were working out in this sports center, that is something that's still under investigation. But as you rightly pointed out, we're talking about a city that was packed with people anticipating the next day of one of the biggest aerospace expos in the entire country. So a lot of people hanging around that area. What police are also saying is that when they arrived to the scene, they found Fan inside his vehicle. He was unconscious. He had wounds to his neck. They recovered a knife. They believe those wounds were self-inflicted. At this point, the latest is that he's in the hospital in a coma, but in police custody.
Megan, China has a relatively low crime rate compared to some other countries, but it really has seen a rise in stabbing cases recently. Talk about the reaction to this latest violence.
Yeah. Well, you know what? In a rare, moment, we're hearing from President of China Xi Jinping, who actually said that he wants Fan to be severely punished in accordance with the law. We don't usually hear from the Chinese president making statements like this. But then, of course, we're hearing from people that are reacting on Chinese social media that are, quite frankly, just shocked and devastated. And as you mentioned, we've seen a string of stabbing attacks over the last several months and other devastating incidents. In September, for example, there was that bus crash that killed 11 people. There was the incident with that little boy, 10 years old. He was walking to Japanese class. He was stabbed to death. And then just last month, there was a number of people that were killed in a stabbing incident. So needless to say, the people of China in these various cities are certainly feeling on edge, Vicki.
Megan Fitzgerald live with us for the latest on China. Thank you, Megan.
Well, doctors say since the presidential election, some women are stockpiling contraceptives, fearing access might be blocked due to the incoming Trump administration.
Well, the board is Stephanie Stahl joining us here in the studio now with more on this trend that's happening.
New trend here, guys. President-elect Trump has said he will not restrict birth control, but it is on the agenda for some conservatives. And reproductive rights advocates say women need to be prepared.
Fight back! What do we do?
When the United States Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, providers reported sales surging for emergency contraceptives. Now there's a similar spike 2 years later following the election. Wings Health reported a 966% increase in sales of its morning after pill. Another company, Wisp, reported a 1,000% increase in sales for emergency contraception from November 5th to 6th.
People have expressed fear and worry about their ability to access both abortion care and contraceptive care under a new administration.
In addition to morning after emergency contraception, requests for long-acting birth control like IUDs have surged, and companies that sell abortion pills say people are stockpiling the medications. Women's health providers say for now they are ready to meet the demand.
I think most of the manufacturers of both the abortion pill medications as well as contraceptives in Plan B understand the demand.
Republicans will control Congress next year when President-elect Donald Trump returns to the White House, giving him more power to implement his agenda. Trump said in a social media post earlier this year that he will never advocate for restrictions on birth control.
I'm encouraged and hope that the most recent promises from the campaign are true.
While many are hoping they're true, others are taking no chances. Planned Parenthood says appointments for IUDs increased by 760% the day after the election. Stephanie Stahl, CBS News, Philadelphia.
Anonymous and racist text messages targeting Black Americans are now being sent to other groups of people. Today, the FBI put out a new alert reading in part, the text message recipients have now expanded to high school students as well as both the Hispanic and LGBTQIA+ communities. Some recipients reported being told they were selected for deportation or to report to a re-education camp. People in Southern California and across the country started receiving text messages with references to slavery last week. The FBI is urging anyone affected to report it.
And we have some news coming at this point in time from Manipur, where large-scale mob violence has been reported in parts of the valley districts after 6 people were killed in Jiribam. Residences of local MLAs attacked by angry protesters decrying the recent abduction and brutal killings of 6 individuals in Jiribam, which has sent shockwaves throughout the state. This has led to tensions in Manipur. Mob from different corners of the valley district stormed the residences of local MLAs, destroying properties here. Mob stormed the MLA Sapam Nishikanta's house, located at the Keshampath near Sangai Express local newspaper office. Mob have also stormed into the house of an MLA here in Imphal, burning the furniture of the house and windows of the house. I'm going to go straight across to Ashutosh Mishra for more details. Tensions once again, Ashutosh, erupt in the valley in Manipur. Just take us to the details of what has happened and what are the kind of steps that are now being taken to douse the fires there, quite literally.
So Sneha, you gave the background how it all started. So this is all looks like a reaction to what has happened in Jiribam. Now, dead body of a woman and 2 child have been found. They have been sent to Silchar. In fact, one woman on 7th of November was burned, and the autopsy report says that she was tortured. Now, since 6 people are missing, 3 women, 3 children, there is aggression now we see in the valley where the people are demanding their safe rescue. And since the government has been failed so far to find the whereabouts, looks like a reaction that breaks out in the valley. But this all started this morning at 11:45 when there was massive firing. As many as 40 rounds were fired from the hilly sides at the Lima area in the West Imphal district near the Kangpokpi. Subsequently, this led to all the protests by the people in the valley at multiple such places. And there are many MLAs who came under this attack. His MLA RM Imo, who's the son-in-law of the Chief Minister Biren Singh. His house also came under attack. Several other MLAs' houses came under attack. Though the protesters maintained they only were limited to the outside of these houses, certain limited number of these properties were attacked, but there is a massive protest breakdown. And as we speak, there is a curfew yet again has been imposed in East Imphal and West Imphal. And if you remember, just a couple of months ago when the curfew relaxation was given, the curfew was withdrawn. Today, looking at the situation as it goes tense further, not in Jiribam, but also now in the valley, the curfew relaxation has been withdrawn. That simply means yet again in the valley, now the curfew has been imposed in East Imphal and West Imphal. That simply means entire valley comes under curfew. And that clearly, when you impose curfew, that simply means the kind of situation is escalating, is the anger of the people, the stress of the people, that how even more than a year now, it's going to be nearly around 1.5 years, the situation still not under control.
Extremely worrisome. Very disturbing pictures there coming in from Imphal West and Manipur that we put out for our viewers, where tensions continue and a curfew has been imposed as well. Ashutosh, I'm going to leave it at that for the moment.
We're angry because we can't carry on farming anymore. It's also demoralising. You don't farm for the profits, you farm for your kids. No one owns a farm, you look after it to the next generation. When you're going to lose 20% of all you've ever worked for, your ancestors have worked for, people are very angry. So it means that a farm every 20, 35 years or whatever, when generations change and it gets a new manager or a new person in charge, it's just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. 2 or 3 generations, it's gone. And the line that's came out of the government is it's only going to affect 565 farmers a year. We can't afford to lose 5 farms a year. We are a nation that's growing. There's nearly 70 million in the UK. We need to feed people, and it's farmers that produce that food.
Do you feel like Labour understands farmers?
I don't think any government recently has understood them, but this one particularly, I think they've rushed the budget. They've not looked at the figures. I think we're the fall guys. If it's a strike that's needed, if we're not listened to on the 19th, I can see that happening, but it won't just be farmers striking, it'll be everyone around us.
Tell us a bit about the protest that you've organised for Tuesday.
I don't want to let the numbers out the bag yet, but put it this way, you won't want to buy around. We're going to have a procession down Whitehall, round Parliament Square, led by children on pedal tractors. We've also got a big food bank collection as well happening here. Being farmers, we're kind of used to giving food away below the cost of production, but we want to remind the government that we produce food. We aren't rich landowners. We just look after that landscape and we grow the food for the nation.
Sounds like we're here to number 1 responsibility.
Our next story is about Bangladesh. It's been over 100 days since the ouster of Sheikh Hasina, more than 100 days since she fled the country, and an interim government took over. It is led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus. And what have we seen in all this time? What has this new unelected interim government achieved? They haven't called elections yet, and they haven't been able to stop the violence. In other words, Bangladesh is still busy with revenge, not progress. In fact, they seem to be going backwards. Bangladesh's Attorney General wants to amend the constitution. Among other things, he wants to remove the word secular. Here's what he said. 90% of Bangladesh's population is Muslim, so the constitution should remove the word secularism and emphasize unwavering faith in Allah. But what happens to people who believe in other faiths, in different gods, like the Hindu community? What happens to them? They're already under attack. They've been facing a purge ever since the new interim government took over. Between August 4th and August 20th, there were more than 2,000 incidents of communal violence, mostly targeting Hindus. They were killed and raped. There was vandalism and arson. The Hindu community was targeted across the country. All this happened in the first 15 days of the new regime, and they kept either justifying it or trying to sweep it under the carpet or pushing back. The Yunus regime wants the world to deny the evidence that is right before our eyes. First, it was their home advisor, Jahangir Alam Chaudhry. He accused Indian media of spreading fake news about the violence against Hindus. He said Bangladesh plans to protest this. Then came their information and broadcasting advisor, Nahid Islam. He said that India has no reason to be concerned, that New Delhi should not express concerns about Dhaka's internal matters, and that Bangladesh's minorities are safe. That is what the interim government is saying. At the same time, their Attorney General wants to remove secularism from the Constitution. Do they think this will help protect minorities? By effectively and formally making them second-class citizens. You've already seen 2,000 attacks on Hindus in just 15 days. The Hindus keep protesting, asking for an end to the violence and discrimination, and this is what Dhaka comes up with. Officially end the country's commitment to secularism. They weren't doing a good job upholding it anyway. Now they want to drop the act altogether. Muhammad Yunus wants to pretend that everything is fine, that nothing bad will happen. But the reality is that the Hindu people are scared, and with good reason. Every time there's been political turmoil in Bangladesh, the Hindu community has come under attack. They were targeted during the 1971 Liberation War. Then in 1992, when the Babri Masjid chaos was unfolding in India, and then again in 2001, this time because of an election. In 2001, there were more than 18,000 incidents of violence against Hindus in Bangladesh. 18,000. It was after Sheikh Hasina lost the election. And now she's been ousted again, without an election this time. So can you blame the Hindus for being on edge? And can you blame India for being worried? The interim government can try and pretend that everything is normal, but history suggests that extreme vigilance is required.
Let's move over to India now. India's central government that has brought back the Armed Forces Special Powers Act in the violence-hit Manipur. As the situation remains volatile, the Union Ministry of Home Affairs has reimposed the AFSPA in 5 districts of the state. 6 police station limits have been declared as disturbed areas, and they will remain so until March 31st next year. The centre's notice cited instances of active participation of insurgent groups in heinous acts of violence. Now, the AFSPA provides immunity to armed forces personnel. It disallows prosecution of persons acting under the Act except with the sanction of the central government. The Act empowers the armed forces to use force, even to the causing of death, against quote-unquote any person who is acting in contravention of any law or order. Now, on October 1st, the government had put the entire state of Manipur, barring areas under 19 police stations under the AFSPA, with the disturbed area status. Now, review of the security situation has prompted authorities to add 6 more police stations to the list. With this, only areas under 13 police stations in Manipur are outside the ambit of the stringent act. Now, the return of AFSPA indicates that the situation in Manipur has not improved, even after a year and a half since the outbreak of ethnic violence. This development comes days after 10 suspected militants were killed in a gunfight with security forces in Jiribam district earlier this week. And the Ministry of Home Affairs ordered sending of 20 additional companies of central paramilitary personnel to the state.
As the war rages on in West Asia, an Israeli strike on Iran in late October destroyed an active top-secret weapons facility in Parchin. And this according to officials cited by Axios. The strike by Israel targeted a site previously reported to be inactive. And it destroyed Iran's effort over the past year to resume nuclear weapons research. The Israeli and US officials cited in the report said And Axios also claims that an Israeli strike on Parchin, which was a part of an hours-long operation on October 26th, in retaliation for an earlier Iranian attack on Israel, destroyed equipment used to design explosives that could surround uranium in a nuclear device, further majorly damaging Iran's efforts to resume its nuclear weapons research. According to satellite photos, the Taliban 2 complex was already known to have been the target of the strikes and was identified as the location of Iran's previous nuclear program, which was shut down in 2003. However, Israel is not known to have hit other nuclear sites in the October 26th precision airstrikes, when dozens of Israeli aircraft took out air drone and ballistic missile manufacturing and launch sites. We're still on with the continuous coverage of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Russia has been relentlessly bombing Ukraine as Russian forces advance at the fastest pace in a year and Donald Trump back in the White House. Kyiv is facing a harsh reality. Our next report explains how Ukraine is forced to confront harsh geopolitical realities and consider previously unthinkable compromises. Take a look.
After nearly 3 years of relentless fighting, Russian missile strikes continue to devastate cities across Ukraine, with Odessa among the latest hit. Night strikes have damaged residential buildings, churches, educational institutions, and critical heating infrastructure as Ukraine braces for its harshest winter yet. Moscow's persistent strikes have shattered much of Ukraine's energy grid, heightening fears of a freezing, deadly winter for the civilian population.
We were sitting in a shelter. We started to hear something nearby. We were waiting for what would happen next. In general, I am very sensitive to this, to the war, to all these explosions. And this is probably the first of such destructive moments I have ever seen.
Ukrainian President Zelensky was adamant till a week ago that no Ukrainian territory will be surrendered. However, Kyiv is now indicating a potential shift towards a different priority: security guarantees. With Trump known for his critical stance on US support for Ukraine and his long-standing ties with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukraine is moving quickly to secure commitments that could prevent future invasions rather than focusing solely on the current battlefield lines.
We're going to work on Middle East, and we're going to work very hard on Russia and Ukraine. It's got to stop. Russia and Ukraine's got to stop.
Meanwhile, Russia is signaling that it may be open to talks, but with a condition: any agreement must reflect the realities on the ground. In other words, Ukraine must accept Moscow's territorial gains as a given, a steep demand that Kyiv has so far resisted. As Ukraine navigates these treacherous waters, the stakes could not be higher. The choice is between territorial integrity and lasting security guarantees, while the window for negotiation narrows with each passing day. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
That historic meeting, promoting development in Southeast Asia and in the Pacific Islands, linking arms to secure the technologies of the future, and countering North Korea's dangerous and destabilizing cooperation with Russia. Whatever the issue, we're taking it on together. And I think this makes a big difference for peace and security. We've now reached the moment of significant political change, and I congratulate the Prime Minister for taking office, and this is likely to be my last trilateral meeting with this important group, but I'm proud to have helped be one of the parts of building this partnership. And I think it's built to last. That's my open expectation. I truly believe cooperation of our countries will be the foundation to peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific for many years to come if we stay together. I believe that. So I look forward to our discussion. And Mr. President, I now turn it over to you.
지난해 캠프 데이비드에서 삼국 정상회의를 매년 연례로 개최하기로 했는데 오늘 이렇게 바이든 대통령과 신임 이시바 총리님
New Prime Minister Ishiba.
오늘 만나는
Today's meeting demonstrates the three countries' strong commitment to developing our trilateral cooperation continuously. In the midst of complex global crisis, cooperation between the ROK, the US, and Japan not only coincides with the national interest of all three countries, but is also essential for peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. As we can see from the recent deployment of DPRK troops to Russia, the challenging security environment within and outside the region once again reminds us the importance of our trilateral cooperation. Since the Camp David Leaders Summit last year, led by President Biden, our trilateral cooperation has become and is becoming stronger every day. I want to extend my gratitude for President Biden's leadership. We now have regular trilateral high-level consultations, including the one between the heads of states and with the two leaders today.
Prime Minister.
It is a great pleasure for me to be given this opportunity to participate in this meeting. While our countries are surrounded by an increasingly challenging security environment, the Japan-US alliance, the US-ROK alliance, and our strategic partnerships are essential in securing peace and stability of the Indo-Pacific. In order to effectively respond to international challenges of intensifying complexity, our trilateral partnership has become more important than ever. And against such backdrop, it's encouraging to see our trilateral cooperation expanding in diverse areas on the global scene since the Camp David Summit last year. And especially noteworthy is the trilateral security cooperation, which has been elevated to new heights, as symbolized by the joint exercise Freedom Edge, executed most recently. Founded on the trust Prime Minister Kishida built with President Biden and President Yu, and capitalizing the Trilateral Coordinating Secretariat to be announced today. I look forward to furthering our partnership in response against North Korea and in many other areas. Thank you.
Thank you, President.
Thanks,
Thank you, President.
Mr. President, when will you respond to North Korea for sending troops to Russia? Mr. President.
President, what concerns are you hearing from leaders about the incoming administration?
Mr. President, any concern about some of Trump's appointments, sir?
Thank you, President. Yep.
Good. Disconnected?
All right, moving on. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered mass production of suicide drones as concerns mount over the country's deepening military cooperation with Russia. According to the state media, the North Korean leader Kim witnessed a performance test of suicide attack drones to hit both land and sea targets manufactured by North Korea's unmanned aerial technology complex. He further underscored the need to build a serial production system as early as possible and go into full-scale mass production of these suicide attack drones. Kim Jong-un said that competition for using such drones for military purposes is accelerating around the world, with military authorities likely to recognize their success in conflicts. He was quoted to have said that the introduction of such drones around the world require an urgent update of military theory, also known as loitering munitions. Suicide attack drones have been widely used in the war in Ukraine as well as in West Asia. The unmanned drones are designed to carry explosives and then purposely crash into the enemy targets, effectively acting as guided missiles. North Korea first unveiled its suicide drones in August. Kim had supervised the test of these drones amid rapidly evolving military cooperation with Russia. This raised questions as to whether he was receiving technical help from Moscow to make them. Well, both the countries, North Korea and Russia, recently ratified a comprehensive strategic partnership that their leaders signed in June, which includes a mutual defense pact. North Korea has been accused of deploying thousands of troops to Russia to support its war in Ukraine, especially in the Kursk region. This has prompted South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol to warn about the potential transfer of Russian military technology to North Korea. According to reports, North Korea sent drones across the border to South Korea, flying for hours in key areas, including the capital Seoul, and also over the no-fly zone surrounding the South Korean presidential office. This prompted South Korea to deploy weapons to shoot down North Korean drones. South Korea launched a drone operation command last year to better address the growing threat that's coming from the north.
Leaders of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, a forum of 21 member economies that promote free trade, met in Lima, Peru, Friday. On the summit sidelines, President Joe Biden met with South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba to discuss common concerns.
Linking arms to secure the technologies of the future and countering North Korea's dangerous and destabilizing cooperation with Russia.
Pyongyang recently deployed thousands of troops to help Moscow's war effort against Ukraine.
The challenging security environment within and outside the region once again reminds us the importance of our trilateral cooperation.
The White House said the trilateral summit would allow leaders to prepare for any provocative move from Pyongyang, including nuclear testing and ballistic missile launches.
Especially noteworthy is the trilateral security cooperation, which has been elevated to new heights, as symbolized by the joint exercise Freedom Edge.
The joint trilateral exercise that ended Friday was the last under the Biden administration, as the U.S. prepares for President-elect Donald Trump to take office in January. During his first term, Trump advocated for friendlier ties with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, but also threatened to attack his country. He pressured Tokyo and Seoul to take on a larger share of the U.S. defense burden.
Both Tokyo and Tokyo and Seoul are worried what sort of asks he's going to have at them to maintain the level of alliance that's in both countries today.
Biden also met separately with summit host Peruvian President Dina Boluarte. He announced a $65 million counter-narcotics assistance package for Peru. Biden will have another day with APEC leaders before heading to the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro on Saturday, with a brief stop in the Brazilian Amazon. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Lima, Peru.